Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Bearable Bull here. And I got this aggressively average content for you today. As man, oh man, have the stars aligned today. As it's my first collaboration ever with Blockchain Backer. And I think from this video that you're all about to watch, it's gonna bring chills down all of your spines. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason being is because BCB, as all of you know, is very grounded, very reasonable, nothing close to a shill. But today, he gives a take that I think a lot of you will be shocked by. I certainly was shocked as well. And just to give you a little sneak peek, every single market is pointing to the very real potential that this may be XRP's time. And I think after today's collaboration, every single one of you is going to be fully prepared for what XRP has in store for us. Ladies and gentlemen, I've genuinely never been so bullish on this digital asset before in my life. And after reviewing the stock market, the Bitcoin charts, XRP, and many of other things in this interview, I genuinely believe we'll all have the tools we need to become the new 1%. And I genuinely believe people like Charles Gas Burrito are gonna be really mad when they realize just how wrong they were. Poor Charles Gas Burrito has been busy on Twitter antagonizing the XRP community. But I think after this analysis and what XRP does, he's going to be eating his words. Now, guys, before I get into this interview, I have one more brief announcement. To all of you in my Udemy course, as well as my mentorship program, I have posted a 1.5 hour AMA session I had with my mentorship program the other day. And in those AMAs, I gave away plenty of powerful pieces of information that all of you need to anticipate moving forward in the market that'll maximize your success. That post is up already. And for those of you on OnlyFans, your DMs are being responded to as we speak, as I've had over 100 notifications in the DMs. But your customized video responses are all being completed as we speak. If anyone wants to join and gain access to me for the next few months as we need a profit take and execute moving forward, please sign up to that platform down in the description below. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, one of the most important interviews the XRP Army's seen in a while. I hope you enjoy it, because it's a fireworks display of a moment.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Blockchain Backer bringing you I almost said my own. Hold on. What is it? With some aggressively average content. All right, here we go. All right, everybody, shush. All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Blockchain Backer with some aggressively average content.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the Bearable Bull here, bringing you this daily crypto news and analysis. And today, the first ever collaboration between me and BCB is going live on YouTube.
Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute honor to help lead from the front of this revolution with every single one of you. And one of the people that I know we all look up to in this community is BCB. He's helped guide us through the market when we had not too many analysts really pinpointing things clearly to all of us on YouTube.
something I've always said on my channel is that with just fundamentals, and if you're just a chart analyst, you're always half blind. Me and him, we both talk about different aspects of the market, but I believe together with what we're about to talk about today, we'll have 2024 sight into the future of what's going to happen next. BCB, it's a pleasure to have you on. Let's get it, my brother. How you doing?
Bearable Bull, man. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Man, we both been in here for years and have never done anything together before. I don't think for any reason in particular. It just has never happened, man. So thanks for getting this going, dude.
The stars have aligned, my friend.
Let's go.
The universe is talking to us. The magical pixie dust.
Magical unicorn fairy dust.
But talk about it, brother. You, before we got on, you said you had some of that you wanted to discuss first. We might as well dive off the deep end, my friend. Let's go.
Yeah, sure. So if there's anything any topics in particular you want to talk about, I mean, with this, the weird thing that of course has been going on in markets is how everything has been really timed to line up lately. On my channel, I always refer to it as magical unicorn, fairy dust, puppet masters pulling the puppet strings, God, or simulation, on just how like the timing of events can eventually unfold together, and just how such a bizarre time it is currently right now. Man, the behavior of the price action in XRP, it's been following similar price behavior that it has for the last couple of years, and then the lawsuit completes itself at like just the right time. And then you look over at the stock market, and today was a big day. I'm not sure if you know this, but the Dow Jones broke out of a key Fibonacci retracement level. Today, the S&P 500 broke above its last Fibonacci retracement level. And just a couple of days ago, the NASDAQ broke above its last Fibonacci retracement level. So we're just getting all these stars to kind of align all at once. And I often refer to that as, are we in a simulation? Is this God? Is this puppet masters pulling a puppet string? Or is it just so bizarre it can't be explained in any way other than just magical unicorn fairy dust? But it's an exciting time for sure. And a lot of things are all aligning all at once. It's a great time.
Can we actually just bring that up on the screen if that's possible, brother, so everyone could have a nice little visual of what it is you mean? Because I saw that as well. And before we get into anything else, I do want to discuss that a big reason why I do have you on here is because I've watched your analysis closely now for about a year and a half, roughly, and you've been very practical, reasonable, tactical, and I believe you pinpointed almost to a T the tops of Bitcoin and Ether. But I'm not sure if you know this, I'm more of a altcoin investor than necessarily a Bitcoin investor, if that makes sense. So most of the portfolio was in a lot of altcoins, and a lot of the analysis that I've been talking about was under the hypothesis that we'd get an altcoin season after Bitcoin hit all-time highs and after ETH did its thing. But, and I'm sure you know this very well, that was the altcoin season that never really came, right? We saw an altcoin season, a kind of suppressed one in 2021, and then a little bit of a bump in the back end of 2021. But as we both know, that was more of an upward trend, just going along with Bitcoin. That wasn't really the peak of the market. So as we all know, 2022 was an awful year. And 2022 is what I'd like to call one of my bigger mistakes in the market. The big reason why you're here is I think we both kind of tripped over 2022 a little bit. The big reason you're here is because I want to make sure we never make a mistake like that again, because it was rough. It was really, really rough. And I'm really looking to zero in on what's going to happen, be as grounded as possible, make sure everyone in this community profit takes accordingly, and we don't really get sidestepped by anything ever again. So
yeah, well, what happened in 2022, it was all 2021 when all this price action happened, right? We had pretty much the exceptional insanity that happened there in the earlier part when laser eyes and diamond hands and all that and Wall Street bets happened. which was, in March, April, and May, essentially after Elon Musk and Tesla came out and said they bought Bitcoin, right? That was like peak euphoria of the market. Then we fell, right, in the summer after, Elon comes out and says that, whatever, they just start fudding Bitcoin, right? It's not environmentally safe, or a net negative. And then at the same time, trying to ban Bitcoin mining, right? Then we go back up and we hit fresh new all-time highs. And so the market was definitely a different market than what we could have looked at from a historical basis. And I've done deep dives into this tremendously, that if you look at, let's say you were going to accumulate cryptocurrency in 2015 and 2016, right? 2017, obviously the biggest bull run that we've ever seen in the altcoin market. Still to this day, we haven't seen anything of that magnitude. But if you would have accumulated, let's say, the top 10 crypto assets in 2015 and 2016 to deep into the depth of the bear market, 9 out of 10 of those would have just gone surging to the upside. Your average return was like, if you let's pretend you invested $10,000 into the top 10 in 2015 and 16. Well, just after the first alt season of 2017, you would have turned that into about $750,000. So $10,000 into $750,000 just on alt season number 1. Then, as we know, in 2017, there was even an alt season number 2 that came out of that. So then 10x that afterwards, turn that into 7.5 million. You just didn't have that same phenomenon occur in the market in 2021, where the market did not price in who were the winners during the bear market. And so where in 2015 and 2016, let's say you just bought the top 10, 9 out of 10 of those were big, fat, massive winners. If you would have done that in 2018, 2019, and 2020, accumulating the depths of the bear market, only 2 out of 10 from the top 10 went on to do anything substantial. From a dollar cost average, really the only ones that would have provided huge returns would have been Ethereum and Binance Coin. And we think to ourselves, yeah, but we saw Bitcoin go into a new all-time high. Still, it wasn't really that much. Like, everybody's like complaining, oh, it's the smallest Bitcoin rally we've ever seen. And reality is, even if you average dollar cost average for all those years and your average was like $7,000 or $8,000, right? What if you got out at like $45,000 as your average? Still, it's only like 5 times your return, right? It's not that huge. It wasn't that big like we saw back in 2017, where $10,000 turns into $750,000. It was just very small, and that only 2 out of 10 ended up going. And so I've even run the numbers and I've gone down the list. I go, well, maybe it was like ranks number 11 through 20 that were the big ones that went. But then it was the same story in there too, that it was only 2 out of 10 out of ranks 11 through 20. I believe it was Cardano and it was Chainlink. But otherwise, the other 8 out of the 10, nothing great. Then it was like, okay, let's move further down the list. Like, right, maybe it wasn't the top 10, maybe it wasn't the top 20. What about like the top 30? What if we went to like ranks number 21 through 30? Do we see anything in there? And again, we have 2 out of 10 in ranks number 21 through 30. You've got Dogecoin, and then you've got VeChain. And then, so when you look at that and you look at your whole top 30, you really only had 6 that went on and did anything substantial. And even the average returns out of all of those still were way less than what we saw in 2017. So from a market perspective, it is highly likely we don't have the same crypto market that we're all used to, or have built theses around of the early phases of what the cryptocurrency market was. And what we've also noticed is we likely can't depend on the market to be accurately pricing, even in a time like right now. Whatever is in the top 10 doesn't necessarily mean it belongs there. Shortly before we went off into the bull run of 2021, there's things there in the top 10 that you just wouldn't imagine, you wouldn't think of, like late 2020, thinking of like Bitcoin Cash being up there, or EOS right now. Now those are viewed as like, why would those even be in there? But at those times, they were like the biggest transaction volumes were happening on them. The biggest developer accounts were happening on them. And so what still happened is, even though we go through these massive bear markets, and just because the market has placed somebody in the top 10 or placed them in the top 20 and they've still retained that through the whole bear, it didn't necessarily mean that they were going to go on to do much. And so when we like look at things now, having to look at them at a much bigger fine-tooth comb and pay attention to a lot more things, which I think you mentioned we're going to kind of go over later, like tokenomics and inflation and how those are important and impactful on, you know, the rise, right? So what we saw even with a lot of these coins, even stuff from the top 10, which did not occur in 2017, would be things just not going into their all-time highs. How bizarre would that be, that things that would be in the top 10 or even in the top 5, like XRP, right? Not even going on to touch its all-time high. So the market dynamic definitely changed. And then when we look at what happened with the peak of the market in 2021, when it came to Bitcoin and when it came to Ethereum, we watched a new phenomenon happen. And it's not technically a new phenomenon. You could call this an expanding flat correction. However, they're just rare. We don't see them very often. And we definitely haven't seen these on bigger time frames with Bitcoin or with Ethereum. But what all indicators point to was that even though there was a new all-time high that was set for Bitcoin and that was set for Ethereum there in November of 2021, the real peak of the market actually did happen back in March, April, and May when Tesla adds Bitcoin to their balance sheet, laser eyes and diamond hands, Elon Musk goes on Saturday Night Live, that the true peak euphoria of the market, and we can all go back and live in that moment from when we were there, the peak of the market was the day Elon was on Saturday Night Live. That was peak altcoin season. That was peak euphoria. We can go back and look at a ton of the altcoins and see that that was their peak. Even things that didn't set new all-time highs, like Litecoin, right? It goes up and hits its all-time high. Stellar Lumens hits its all-time high, but doesn't really break into new all-time highs. Monero, a lot of stuff. We can go back and look. That was their peak. That day, Elon Musk, like May 8th through May 11th, 2021, and boom, that was it. And so we go on and set a new high, but we were already printing bear market fractals, acting like a bear market. But in an expanding flat, you actually can go on and set this new all-time high. So a lot of controversy right now on whether or not Bitcoin will go on to set another new all-time high, or if that was it, that was the end of a third super cycle. It's the market will all tell us what's going to happen with that. But it was certainly something we would pull up charts and talk about all this stuff, but it was certainly a different environment because we all expected a 4.236 extension, or at least I did. I expected a 4.236 extension. If for those who aren't watching, a Fibonacci extension is where you can measure how far you can hope to anticipate that an asset can reach out to when it's in price discovery and it's a new all-time highs. We do have measurements that we can take to try to see how high can something get. And when we had the fall that happened there in May after Elon went on Saturday Night Live, we knew we hadn't gotten to the 4.236 extension. We had fallen, but still anticipated that we'd go hit it. And we did. We went on and hit it. But what was very different and what we can at least carry forward with us moving forward were some of the signals that were given to us to say that even though those new all-time highs didn't get set, we now know a new set of warning signs to kind of look for in underlying indicator behavior. Even on-chain behavior can kind of give us a clue a little bit of, is there distribution happening? Are wallets dumping on us? Are they escaping on this one right here? And trying to get an idea rather than just focusing on price. So we could dive into all that, no problem. But yeah, it was an interesting market to have so many things in the top 10 not go on to the new all-times. I think the average return of the top 10 in 2020, I ran a simulation and I said, okay, let me pretend that I bought a bunch of assets on like December, I can't remember the date. Let me say like December 21st, 2015. I was like, all right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pretend I'm gonna buy a bunch of assets on December of 2015. And I'm gonna pretend that I saw them all like here in May of 2017. And what's my average return? And then I picked very similar dates from cycle perspectives for 2021. And was like, all right, what would happen if I bought a bunch of assets here in like December of 2019 and then sold them in May of 2021, right? So like picked similar timeframes, similar spots within bear markets and similar amounts of time and euphoria periods from the 2021 bull market compared to the 2017 bull market. And in my two simulations that I ran, that my average returns in 2015 to 2017 were 73x. And then my average returns in 2021 were 12x. So it was a massive difference in the market. And that's just based on the top 10. The number was like the same for the top 20. It was like 13x. And then, when we get into the top 30, well, then you would have had Dogecoins. That would have helped a little bit more. But otherwise, that's just kind of gives an example of how muted this run was compared to what we've seen historically. So whatever you want me to pull up, brother, we can dive into it.
Let's actually pull up the Bitcoin chart, and I do want to break down something for you and see if you've actually thought about this, because I was a little bit baffled by the for lack of a better term, the lack of a bull run, right? Because it was in 2017 we saw a parabolic blow off top for Bitcoin, right? In 2021 we did not see a parabolic blow off top. We saw a double top for Bitcoin, right? Which is, to me, that showed a lot of weakness in crypto, and especially in altcoins. I expected altcoins to have a lot more steam behind them, but I'm very curious to know your take on how the NFT market may have diluted a lot of the volume that could have actually come into the crypto market, because a lot of volume went into those stupid JPEGs and pictures of rocks and stupid monkeys that didn't go into some of our favorite altcoins. Right.
Well, it's hard for me to know if it did or if it didn't. The likelihood of it is probably, maybe that impacted the altcoin market somewhat, right? And but I'm assuming you can see my screen right now. Is that correct?
Oh, perfect.
Okay, great. So I've got Bitcoin here in front of us. Let's address the first thing that you had mentioned. I'll go ahead and say the thing about the NFTs. I really don't know. I don't have a way to like go beyond just speculating. Maybe, right? Maybe. And would those people have maybe come into the altcoin market? Possibly. Would they have not participated in crypto at all? Possibly too. So I'm not really sure, how to say it would have done this if we hadn't done that, but we could all speculate that maybe it did. As for Bitcoin and the price of how high it went, we'll pull everything up in here and we'll say, and I'm not sure if you've seen this before, but one of the things that I've talked about has been super cycle theory. And that's been that Bitcoin has actually done 3 super cycles of this magnitude before. So this is not the only time we've seen something of this size. So what I'm actually doing on my other screen right now, trying to get a chart prepared for us here. Here you go. This is the Brave New Coin Liquid Index. So this is actually going to give us data on Bitcoin dating all the way back to 2010. So this is where Bitcoin's 5 cents, right? Essentially at the start, right? We all know it started, and I say we all know, and here I am. I don't know that I think it was January 2009, right? Yes. We started in the depths of the depths of the great financial crisis, right? So we've only existed in the biggest bull run of our lifetimes, right? And this big, huge run. And on this screen, I do have a lot of things marked. These are actually Bitcoin block reward halving dates and then marking new all-time highs. But things that we definitely noticed is that we've done these similar sized. Boy, it's hard for me with the shift this. There we go. I can put this over here. Sorry about that. Trying to work with Zoom here. Okay, I've got this thing that was blocking all my tabs. It's a little Zoom taskbar. We've had multiple super cycles of the exact same magnitude happen before, and so I'm going to show you that here. Everybody kind of says that this is a bull run, this is a bull run, this is a bull run, and this is a bull run, right? Maybe, but either way, this is a bull run, right? And that the biggest misconception in here is the discussion of 4-year block reward having a controversial view that I do have, and also saying that this is a bull run of its own, and that this is actually just a little bit of an extension, and that's really all Bitcoin had left in it. But I will show you that when we look at Bitcoin, that we've actually done these exact same size moves, and that this was actually one whole cycle on its own. And that's the big misconception of the market, is that we have these 4-year cycles, and that what happened here was odd and didn't make any sense. But to sit here and argue 4-year cycles, we have a lot of problems here with the 4-year cycle theory, just merely by looking at the length of time that has happened between block reward halvings. We know there was 3 years and 7 months between these 2 block reward halvings, and then there was 3 years and 11 months between these block reward halvings. But then we shift over to the next one that we're anticipating. That one's going to be 3 years and 11 months as well. But the problem is we actually end up having like these perfect cycle tops and bottoms that end up being like 4 years apart, right? 4 years apart, 4 years apart, 4 years apart from the bottom, 4 years apart from the bottom. So everybody says 4-year block reward halvings, but they're not. This is 3 years and 7 months. This is 3 years and 11 months. And the next one expected to be 3 years and 11 months. And then what I've got here in these little kind of drawings in here is that the length of time that it took that to elapse between the block reward halving and before breaking out into an all-time high. And in here, it was about 90 days. In here, it was about 180 days. And here, it was about 210 days. So the time keeps getting elapsed further and further and further. And so it becomes a difficult argument for the block reward halvings when the timing keeps, expanding and getting longer and longer until we have these new all-time highs. But what we do see is that there's a much more tighter correlation when we break out with the stock market. So typically what we also notice here, this breakout that happens right here for Bitcoin in 2013, that's also when the Dow Jones is breaking out from the great financial crisis. It goes into its first all-time high after the peak prior to the great financial crisis. Then over here, when we get this one, we break from a 3-year range. This is when Donald Trump wins the presidency. And the markets had moved back up to their highs. I believe the S&P had moved back up to its high, the NASDAQ. And then we break out into new highs for the Dow. And then this one right here, what do we have? We have C19. We get back to the high, the pre-C19 highs. And then boom, within like 12 days, we break out. So it was like it's 21 days here. It's 56 days here. And it's 12 days here for breaking out into these new all-time highs. But what we also see is like 90 days from a block reward halving, 180 days from a block reward halving, 210 days from a block reward halving. I know that's not your question, but I got to lay down this foundation stuff real quick too. And so then we go back and we say, okay, but all right, so we were just waiting for a block reward halving, right? And then we go on and set another new all-time high. But the argument is it has a lot more to do with the stock market. So I think the stock market is really the dictator. But when we look back at this chart, we get a whole lot more than what we do when we look here at like Bitstamp. Bitstamp's really the one that's going to give us the most data over there on TradingView. But when we look at the Brave New Coin Liquid Index, it's not that this is a cycle, this is a cycle, this is a cycle, and this is a cycle. It's actually that's not even a cycle at all. And that this is actually all part of the exact same cycle that has happened in here. And that's why there was so much confusion in here on it being a top. And so, for example, the reason why this one is not a start of a new cycle on its own and why we only went as high as we did is having to know that we've done 3 super cycles of the same size. And so what we're going to do is we're going to grab this one and put us on the daily time frame.
You know what you're saying actually, while you're prepping that, what you're saying actually does make a lot of sense. And because people are I think a little too caught up on the 4-year cycle theory and the block or the block rewards halvings. But to me, it's always made sense that these cycles would take longer as more price discovery comes and more money comes into the market and as Bitcoin stabilizes. So I wouldn't be surprised that we see these cycles from what used to take just a couple years that moved to 4 years now taking 6 or 7 years to complete. So that's very interesting. That's bold. The maxis won't like you for that.
No, they don't.
I'm sure you got critiqued heavily for it, but it does make sense. And I think people are absolute experts at reading what's already happened, and they try and use what's already happened to pinpoint the future, and that doesn't work. That's not how these markets work, because then everyone would be a trillionaire, right? So it's interesting.
Yep. And so I think that's the hardest thing to accept, because it doesn't go with the narrative of Bitcoin, right? The narrative of Bitcoin is that the world will end, and that Bitcoin will rise from the ashes and go on and save the universe from a banking collapse, right? But it really does show how tied it is to the equity markets in particular. So, but here's the problem. Here's where the miss happened. This is where the big swing and the big miss happened, is that we were in a super cycle the whole time, and that we actually had paused, just as we had in the previous super cycle, and that we had made the same exact crash, retrace, reaccumulation wave 4 in this super cycle in here. And you can just see these really closely. If you look at them, you see from top to bottom, you see the bounces that happen in here. Then you see just an A, B, C correction, right? We have an A, B, C correction. And then what do? We break off and go, we break off and go. And so everybody was looking for a big monster bull run to happen in here and to go into crazy prices. But really just, this was now the third time that we had done this, and that even in the earlier phases back in here, this very first one is the same size as this one as well. So we have 1, 2, and then 3. And that's the big swing and miss.
That would make a lot of sense why this was a double top in that case.
Yeah, so in this, correct. And I actually don't think it's a double top. As bizarre as it sounds, it's a fancy correction. It's real fancy. It's an Elliott wave. I think what we're all hoping is that it would be an extended flat. But there was things that showed up here in the prices that didn't make sense at the time. Living in it, it was I was screaming, we're in a bear market, we're in a bear market. Little did I know how deep into a bear market we already were at this point, that we were not just starting a bear market right here, but that we were way deep into a bear market. And our bear market.
Can I just interrupt you right there, BCG?
Sure.
Because that's a very important point to note, because a lot of people at home, they're probably asking themselves, Bull, like, what happened? Like, why didn't we get this? This was the most difficult crypto market, I think, for anyone to analyze that we've seen. 2017, people just were new. People didn't know. There wasn't much price history. We've never really had so many altcoins in the market all at once doing 20 to 100 X's for no reason. There were shit coins that were promising new internets, and ideas were making billionaires. It was unreal. This market, people were more refined, but the market got more sophisticated. And you could argue that it's the powers that be that made that this moment in the market that's highlighted in green, that made it so tricky for analysts to zero in on, because the fact that was the all-time high price for Bitcoin, but like what you're saying, this was technically deep into a bear market. I think that sidestepped a lot of people, and I think that's where a lot of mistakes were made, my friend. That was really tough. That was really, really tough.
Right. Well, you had a lot of different camps of people in the market at the time. And I'm not sure if you remember this, Bull, but back in here, I don't know how often you got to just admit we're in a bear market. And it's like, it's real funny. You get to hear it too from your perspective, I'm sure, when you hear the same things repeated over and over again. Somebody out there is programming a large group of people all at once, and they all come regurgitating the same thing to you.
I say it's bot farms, my friend. I promise you.
You think so, dude?
Probably.
I don't know, bro. It's crazy, dude.
It probably is. I wouldn't be
surprised. But yeah, that's what that was. And it was like, no, listen, we're going to go set a new all-time high. And without trying to confuse your audience too much, I present all these cases, man. We'll flip charts upside down. We'll do Elliott waves on them. Be like, hey, look, man, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Roll back up to wave 4, and then we set a new low. That's going to be it. Which means also, invert it. It's going to be a new high. Without scaring off your audience too bad. Which I think we have a lot of the same viewers anyway. They'll be like, no, BCP, get crazy. It's cool. But when we had this, the idea was we're going to go set a new all-time high. Just structurally, it's what it said we would do. That this would be the first initial profit take of the market, and we'll go set a new all-time high. And then we started creating a bear market fractal right from the very top, But you'd essentially have to anticipate that this phase right here in the market, let's get rid of some of this stuff.
Yeah.
This phase right here in the market, anticipating these, they're actually coming like this. And then you get that and that. Anticipating this, looking like this, that, and that. And then you kind of have what actually did end up happening here in this market. And that, everybody's looking for the blow off top, And in my circumstance, we anticipated the new all-time high because we hadn't reached there from extensions and anticipated an initial profit take. So even expecting the all-time high, but not anticipating we'd be this far. And this is how far into the bear market we already were by the time we got here. And that's where the big trick in the market came. How could we go set a new all-time high? How could we hit a 4.236 extension and be in a bear market while we do it? That was the thing. So if you go back and you look at like Litecoin, you go look at XRP, you go look at all the altcoins of the past, never do we go on and set a new all-time high for Bitcoin and the altcoins not go with it. Never happened. That's never happened. It's always happened. So it was a very bizarre scenario to have happen in here. The good news is what we have done here. This is all as if we have already completed all the nastiness of the market. All the nasty is over. We've gotten through all of it. It's all been brutal. And
so just to go back to what you just said about all the nasty, can you just compare the 27-18 nasty part to where we are now, in your opinion?
Sure. So anyway, I'll show you this. So this is how deep we went during that phase. And I guess I should explain this. The conceptually that this would be an expanded flat is the Elliott wave term for it. And in an Elliott wave, without confusing everybody too much, you have a WXY, you have a WXY, and then you finish it off with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then that's the completion of the ending phase. And that's precisely what we have happen in here, just with a new all-time high happening from this location. And you'd say, oh, well, that's silly. I'm one of the most critical people when it comes to people just grabbing fractals and applying them on there. I'm like, man, you can't just take whatever fractal you want and say that's what we ended up doing. But we can go back and see that the phase that we're speaking of here is the ending phase of the 2014 bear market. How we came into the ending, that's what we have copied over here, the ending phase of the market. Then if that's true, then we should see the ending phase of the 2018 bear market showing up here on Bitcoin as well. So we should see this also emerging here. And that's where, like, when we were seeing the top back in 2021, this was the most obvious sign that the top was in. It was that we were acting like we were in the depths of a bear market from the peak. And I'm saying all the time, I'm like, this is just the most bizarre thing in the whole world. Why are we acting like we're in the depths of a bear market from the literal top? Absolute bizarro land. Everybody's looking for a blow off top, right? Looking for a 5-wave ending, excessive euphoria. There's no excessive euphoria in here. We can look at the underlying indicators and the monthly timeframes on this stuff and see that this market was already dead. When we were up here at the top, everything was falling off a cliff already. So you look at the top here from back in 2018, right? We start falling off the cliff from the top, right? We had already fallen off the cliff and we were dead when we went up there. So we were acting like a bear market, price action wise, altcoin market wise, from the top. And so I think that was definitely one of the challenges, is that you're going to go on and set a new all-time high. It just made sense. We were short of the 4.236 extension, but then for it to set an all-time high, altcoin market not go with it, as it has in every single circumstance of this market. And then for us to continue acting like a bear market from the very peak. It was something you can go back in here, and I've done thorough analysis on this all over the place to show, that's your peak. That's the peak of your market, because here's your peak. from back in 2013 and 14. Here's your peak from 2018, right? When the sea goes out, when the tide goes out, it's gone. That's your bear market beginning. And that when we align these things to say, hey, where was the price action? It's just like the tide had already gone out. We were way into it as the tide had already gone out. And so what we see in both of them, these were both the ending phases of the last ones. It's just that in an expanded flat correction, if this is an expanded flat, which is still up for debate if it's going to go to an all-time high, I'm not going to come on here and say that I think it will. You typically in an Elliott wave, what you have is you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is called an Elliott wave. And in normal Elliott waves, what we're used to is we're used to seeing ABC corrections show up in here. This is your typical stuff. And then we go on and we do another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so this is just how you go. And then just keeps on repeating and repeating. And this is your normal Elliott wave of A, B, C. However, you can have an extended flat where B wave comes up higher than wave 5. And so that is the most jacked up thing about it. So let me see if I can pull it up. It's expanded flat, I think, right?
Yeah.
Expanded flat.
Now, for a lot of people at home that are like, hey guys, you guys are typically an XRP channel. Why are you guys talking about Bitcoin so much?
Good call.
What needs to be discussed is that it's not just looking at XRP, seeing what XRP has ever done, and then being like, okay, I have the answers to all the questions. No. What BCB does very well, and what I've been trying to tell people as well, is that all these markets are correlated to a certain extent at one way or another, right? You talk a lot about the stock market. I tell people to watch the DXY as well. You have to look at Bitcoin, then look at what alts are doing individually, because if you can zone in on the relationship between all of these different charts, you'll be able to see what it is that you can expect roughly every single time, right? So that's why we're giving you context of all these different charts and markets in order for you to get the best overall view, aerial view of how to prepare for the next run. Because like I said in the beginning, we can't be wrong again. We have to make as much profit as we can. And these tools will prepare us beautifully to be able to do that.
Yeah, the reality is it's the most I don't know what words I could say on your channel. It's the most
let it loose.
It's the most non-sexy thing to say. Is that, you know, XRP has been very correlated to the rest of the cryptocurrency market. And when you view the time periods of the decade now, because we've now had XRP for almost a decade, is that when price runs have happened for it, it's always happened with the rest of the market. And when the rest of the market runs, it typically happens at very critical price points for Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin runs, it tends to happen at very critical price points for the stock market. So it's almost like having to watch everything from the top bottom. We have to watch the stock market, then we can watch Bitcoin, then altcoin market, then XRP. And that's the most disliked statements that I make. Is that we have to do those, but I try to show it all of that. And that's why we're sitting here talking about the BLX. We've got, you know, we're talking about stock market, we're talking about block reward halvings. We have to like destroy some of those myths to start seeing the reality for what it is. And it's that we tend to take off for Bitcoin when the stock market is breaking out. And then what we end up having is we end up having XRP take off into moments where Bitcoin is peaking or where Bitcoin is breaking out into a new all-time high or where Bitcoin is peaking, right? These things all seem to be correlated, and figuring out the timing of these and having to have the bigger picture, and it just can't be in a vacuum of what's going on with my altcoin. It's more of looking at the whole big picture altogether.
And something I did want to touch on as well is that you did say that we broke some key retracement levels in the Dow and the stock market today. Would you like to bring those up very quickly?
Oh, let's do it, bro.
And also, just to prepare your mind as well, I want you, after you let people know what this means exactly, to let people know what you think could be about to happen for Bitcoin as well.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. But I am not a financial advisor. This is not investment advice. Investing is risky. All right. There's my disclaimer.
You can be the professional, and I'll go along and say, but you should follow it anyway. No, let me.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Very good.
All right. All right. So this is so historically, not historically, in markets, what you typically have is, like we just talked about with Elliott waves, they have tendencies to move up. Well, markets have a tendency to move down too. And whenever we're in downtrends, a lot of times what happens is markets go back into retracement levels. And you could tell I have drawn a 702 retracement many times in my life that we get it there. But what typically happens is that a market will fall and then it will go over for another fall. But what usually happens in most markets is retail investors, the general crowd, of course, they get euphorically excited at the top and they buy the top. Then they get utterly terrified and they buy the bottom. You can think of it as how that just all happened. At the peak in the 60,000s, everybody's screaming for $100,000 Bitcoin. Then when we get back down, everybody's screaming 10 to 12K, right? But neither one of those price points end up getting hit. But then what eventually happens is we can go into a bounce. And this is where all answers can happen. And it's not that it really gives us a very clear decision here on, just because we get back here, here's the answer. But we know we can get rejected here terribly. And we know that we can break out of these. And if we break out of these, it can indicate the uptrend is actually happening. But the thing about Fibonacci's is helping remove that utter terrifying feel that happens when we get down in there. Remember back in June of last year, Luna, UST, right? And Celsius, Three Arrows Capital. The Fed is raising interest rates. Don't fight the Fed. Everybody's screaming, don't buy this market because we're going to go lower, right? But then just kind of keeping that in the back of your head that, hey, markets tend to bounce. And then, after the bounce, then, they can get back up to the retracement levels. And then I can be scared. While usually all those same investors that were bullish here and were terrified down here, they usually come running back into the market right back in here. But this is always really cool because it kind of gives like a chance to try to exit the market. So but when we get back here, this is where usually all the big questions come in. Is this market going to roll over from this location, or is it going to head down low and head down lower? Or is it going to puncture through here and is it going to go higher? Because this is typically the ultimate rejection level. Nothing is like an end all be all. But if you go through and you study 1,000 charts, you're going to find this is the death area of charts. And that when they go back up and they get rejected down in here, it's unbelievably a difficult spot for most charts, including Bitcoin, including XRP, including everybody. But today we broke through a pretty critical one over here that I always watch over here on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Since November of last year, I've been like on this like Great Depression alert. As we got back to it, worried. We're now back at it. All of you guys were screaming for we're don't fight the Fed. Not you, Bull. Talking about people in general. Don't fight the Fed. We're going to Doomtown. It's all over. You're such a dingus. Like, look, it's going to go back to the retracement levels. From there, then it's time to start putting on the worried face, right? We get back to the retracement levels. It's like, all right, now you guys want to start screaming for a Great Depression. Now we can start worrying about one. We get back here and we get stuck for 8 months, man. We have been stuck under here for 8 months. We got the stock market closing now in 1 minute and 2 seconds. And this is about to be the highest close we've seen on the Dow Jones Industrial Average for the last 1 year and 3 months. We've now broken through this critical retracement level of 702. Still, there is one more remaining in here, but this one in particular has been the problem child for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Good news is, look over at the SPX. The S&P has officially, and we're going to get it on, we're going to pull this sucker up, gotten through the very last retracement level. So now we look over here at the NASDAQ. It as well has gotten through the very last retracement level. So we are seeing bullishness emerge over here in the stock market currently right now of NASDAQ and the S&P getting through all Fibonacci retracement levels. Does this indicate that we are going on into a massive bull run in the stock market? No, but it sure lets go of a ridiculous amount of worry that happens right here at these retracement levels, as we've now gotten through them with how responsive they are for rejecting markets. And when we look at the Dow Jones, we know it's been fighting this one for 8 dang months. And finally, it is getting through today. It looks like we just closed right now. There you go. The highest daily close for the Dow Jones Industrial Average just happened live during this interview. We haven't seen a price this high for the Dow dating back to April 21st of 2022. So this is exciting because we look at the order of how things tend to go. It tends to go stock market, Bitcoin, altcoin market. And this is a very nice thing to see. And, you know, I have my own theories on even if we set new all-time highs, which these events happening here by the S&P and the NASDAQ getting through those retracement levels certainly increases the odds that we could see all-time highs for the NASDAQ. It increases the odds for the Dow Jones. But, you know, how far those will get, it's going to be a similar situation to like what we saw over there in Bitcoin. The wall of worry up in the new all-time highs is going to be very similar to what we saw with Ethereum and what we saw with Bitcoin, in which they both almost got to these full extensions in here, but they sold off a little bit ahead of time. And then, you know, are you going to pull off one of these things again, like we just saw with Ethereum, we just saw with Bitcoin? And are we going to see a large monthly divergence emerging in here? Because we definitely see that there's been a bearish divergence in the monthly time frame to set that high. Will we see another one for this one? That's for another day. But if we're looking at short term, we're looking at price action right now. You know, the reason I bring that up is, of course, everybody thinking, you know, we set a new all-time high. It means we just go raging off into rage land for the stock market, but not necessarily. There's got to be that remembrance that the 4.236 extension is slightly higher. And that's also what did stop Bitcoin and Ethereum's market cap in the 2021 bull run. But seeing these things happen right here, these are your first signs. These are the first things you want to see to kind of lay down that little bit of wall of worry. And whether or not it lays down a wall of worry for people like you or me or people who watch this show, but there's a lot of people out there with a lot of money who have been worried about this level. If I've been very concerned about it. The fact that we're getting through it, very, very exciting to see.
Very much so, brother.
Yeah,
and
man.
if we are operating under the hypothesis that stock market rises in value, potentially more money comes in, that'll trickle down into Bitcoin, which will trickle down into alts. It'll kind of go with my thesis that we could see Bitcoin hit 35 to 40K, maybe even go up to as high as 45, 50. Is that kind of what you're anticipating as well for Bitcoin, for it to hit one of those retracement levels in that area as well?
Yeah. That's my thought too. And that's controversial, right? Most people want to hear all-time highs. I hope for all-time highs. It'd be fantastic if we got them. But I think all the numbers you laid out there are reasonable numbers. You know, even as low as 30, maybe 35, maybe, you know, like it's possible that we could stay that low for Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. But I think we haven't got it. I think we're going to see more. We're going to see more excitement in the altcoin market than we are in Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's kind of, geez, I may piss off so many of your viewers. I don't think there's much left in Bitcoin, brother.
So, you know, if we could just bring the Bitcoin chart up again. So what you're saying is that there's a very real possibility that this could be kind of like the altcoin season we were waiting for, maybe?
Yes. Yeah. So that's kind of been my theory. Okay. So, you know, I, of course, had hoped this would have come a lot earlier and we didn't have to drift all the way down here to get that. Yeah. But that we would have it in here. And so there's only 2 places you will see an alt season, only 2 places ever. And that is when Bitcoin is breaking out into a new all-time high after a multi-year bear, or if Bitcoin is in some type of retracement happening in here. This is the only 2 times we ever see them. So if we start seeing the Bitcoin dominance really start plunging on itself, and we start seeing like what we're seeing over there on XRP, if we see XRP just firing away while Bitcoin's doing something like this, it's a really bad sign for Bitcoin. It just means that the market is exiting Bitcoin, and they're exiting it early. typically we won't see any type of altcoin action until we get up here and we get into new all-time highs. So if we start seeing these altcoins taking off and going crazy before we get up here, it's a very historical signal that there's going to be problems here for Bitcoin without getting into a new all-time high.
I think we're going to be the envy of the maxis, my friend. Something tells me that the maxis had their run in their lap, and then they're going to be taken aback when potentially what they hadn't been expecting finally hits, because I don't see the energy or the flow of capital really trying to flood into Bitcoin right now, especially not until an ETF comes into play. But I do think that the biggest surprise in the market could genuinely be an altcoin season of sorts, especially after an XRP ruling like we saw, especially considering that we didn't really see one before. I don't think anyone's really anticipating it.
Yeah, and just the lineup of XRP, I know we haven't even gotten to XRP, which I assume we're going to in here, but just the way XRP is behaving right now, it is acting like it's in the moment of Bitcoin breaking out into an all-time high. So this is acting substantially early for Bitcoin. This type of price action we're seeing in XRP shouldn't be happening until Bitcoin's all the way up here. So we might even be getting a clue from XRP that Bitcoin's not going to have that. But I also am not here to poo-poo on Bitcoin, because we could take a look at the underlying indicators of Bitcoin just on the monthly time frame. Look at it when it crawled out of the 2014 and 2015 bear market, right? On the monthly time frame, stochastic RSI starts turning up, relative strength starts turning up, and hey, that's the start of a whole run. We look over here in 2019. You know, once we come off the floor of stochastic RSI and start shooting up here on the monthly time frame, hey, that's it. Bottom is already in. Right now, move over here to 2022 and 2023. Hip, hip, hooray, dude. Look at Bitcoin go. Boom. First green printed over here on the MACD. MACD's crossing underneath zero line. This is good stuff, man. This is all good stuff for Bitcoin. So there's nothing here, at least on the super large time frames, screaming bad for Bitcoin. This is a time where, you know, we look at the trickle down, we look at the stock market, we look at Bitcoin, and we look to the altcoin. We've got just good signals flashing all over the place, and Bitcoin's flashing them too. So give Bitcoin a little bit credit, but the percentages are going to be difficult to get anything big. I also don't hear, you know, Bitcoiners talking about price predictions very often, because even if they say numbers like 150,000 or something like that, right? Just the mathematical percentages, the statistic, it's just not much, right? That's just not a very big rise compared to history. I believe TXMC had showed me some data point the other day where like this bull run is like 600x, this one's 100x, this one is 20x off the bottom. And if you just kind of do that, like you know, the law of diminishing returns, that would indicate your next one would be 5x off the lows.
Yep.
You know, that you don't have, like, even if in that case, right, you go get the all-time high, 5x off the lows, what is that, $90,000 or so, something like that.
Excellent.
And it just doesn't have much room to go. And I think that's going to be kind of the narrative now. Where's the next shiny gem, right? That's what everybody's looking for. And, hey, I'm XRP. I've got regulatory clarity. How are you doing?
Yep. And we didn't reach our past all-time high last cycle.
Correct. Right.
So it's very suppressed. So I know that I've been, you know, drumming the XRP horn for 5 years now. Shit.
Yeah, bro.
So I know I've been over here telling people at the top of my lungs, hey, XRP, XRP, XRP. But I think finally, right now, Becker, it's genuinely the time for XRP to steal the show. And I think you may very well agree with this statement that I think whenever this next cycle is, it could very well be the best performing asset, especially in the top 10.
Bro, I'm nervous because what we'll go through here, it looks like it. It looks like we're living in the moment. And that, of course, is a little nerve-wracking because what if it's not? But everything like points to it that we're in it right now, and we don't really know it. And that like pretty soon it might be blatantly obvious that we're in it.
It'll be
blatantly obvious that we're in it, and it could not be. It could be very close. So that's just that. or we find out we're not in it for very soon. It seems like we're just within the next few days to kind of get that answer. So that's what's exciting.
Interesting. Oh God, dude, we have people on the edge of their seat. I think I was gonna say something. I wanted to touch on some before XRP, but you just brought chills down my spine. We're gonna do XRP right now. Let's bring up the XRP chart back here. Let's do it.
I did. All right, let me see what I got. All right, here's short-term time frame. Let's go to bigger time frame. Beautiful. All right, here we go. Let me get rid of this thing. We're gonna refrain from price predictions currently right now. So this thing is pointing to $30. I'm not sitting here saying we're going to $30, but we're just going to pay attention to how price behaved in here compared to the past. So things to kind of take note of is just how price did behave from 2013 through 2017, right? In Elliott wave theory, this is also called a contracting triangle. I have a funny saying that I always call it a crash, retrace, reaccumulation, then breakout. The technical Elliott wave term is contracting triangle, but we do have that happening here on a much bigger time frame. We have a crash, a retrace, a reaccumulation, and are we in the breakout? The things that were interesting about all price behavior that took place in here is the depths at which we fell from the peak to the low. This is 95 to 96%. The peak from here to the low is how much? 96%. So we have these big, massive falls that take us from the peak of euphoria down to the depths of despair. We go back into these retraces, and then in both retraces from peak to bottom, peak to bottom, they are both 88.5%. Somehow, some way, they both magically turn out to be the exact same percentage retraces and reaccumulations that happen in here.
So just to cut you off very quickly, would you say that it wouldn't be far-fetched to look at this and say, you know what, I wouldn't be surprised if the similar type of gains that we had seen based on how the percentages have acted are very possible?
So that gets into kind of what we just said. That gets into price predictions. So
I understand.
So we can talk about that, but let's lay all this foundational work down first, and then kind of we can say, well, here were where things have gone before, and then we can also circle back to the discussion you want to have on inflation, right? Yeah. So token supply, so that could impact as well. So looking at underlying indicators too, right? So before we do this, we just start saying, hey, it looks like that. Let's talk about, what is happening here, even on the monthly time frame on big indicators, right? Boom, we have the big flip going on here in the MACD, right? And, we sit here and we say, okay, yeah, but it's the ruling that made it happen. Look how close we were to flipping bullish already. The ruling showed up when it was supposed to show up. We had already turned back. We were already getting ready to close the gaps. We're ready to completely roar our way back to the upside, and the ruling happens. We reach the end of the fractal. The ruling happens.
You know what this shows me? This shows me that Judge Torres just watches the charts and she has her positions in place.
No, she watches the BCB channel, bro. She's like, now. Let's play with her mind. All right. So anyway, what we also see, right? Look how bullish the stochastic RSI is moving up. Again, like this stuff, we can cut this off and we can go back. Let's cut the ruling out. Here we go. We don't even have the ruling yet. Okay. Look at how we have turned up. Look how everything is converting, and we're getting ready to go rocking and roaring already. When we look to these passive, when these have turned up and we get bullish, right? We come way beyond it. Here we go. You look right here, right? We're already past our bottom. Once we're getting ready for our flip and ready to go, here we are. We're getting ready to cross. We're already stochastic RSI. The underlying strength is shooting its way to the upside. What happens? Let's go. Rule it. Send it. And so then price, of course, follows along with the excitement. But the other thing that is absurd by it, looking at it like this, it's like, oh, this is a copy of this, right? Almost, right? These are almost the exact same. So this comes from this whole time period back in here, in that we've had a very similar price behavior happen in here. Like we said, it's the 88.5%. This is 826 days of how long this took to play out. Here we are on day number 820. We're within the final week Judge Torres rules XRP is not a security. Price has shot up. Price has hovered in this zone we're in currently right now. You can see that price also did this last time, right? It eventually broke from this Wyckoff accumulation range, which we can see how similar price action was in both of these, broke from the range and then consolidated in here for about a week, which you may have saw that I just showed this guy right in here, and that we actually are doing the exact same price structure as we did on that smaller time frame right in here as we did in this one too, that these are really practically identical. And I did a YouTube video on this today too. I said, hey, we're on the 4-hour time frame, looking at the 4-hour charts here. The thing we're going to be watching for today, as I recorded this 8 hours ago, is to see if we get the stochastic RSI to start shooting up as we did back in here before things really started rampaging to the upside. Funny humor for me and those who watched my video today to see there it is. Now we're starting to shoot up with the stochastic RSI as we shot up with the stochastic RSI in here, which ultimately led to things really rocking and rolling, which actually ended up being that moment right there. So even the short term, like that's what I said, like it's scary because it feels like it's so real. And all of us are so used to so much disappointment for so long and being in this for so long. And then it just not panning out. But we literally have all the things lining up. We have the ruling, we have the price behavior, right? We have fractals, we have very, very large time frame indicators going absolutely ham of what the beginning of big fat runs look like. And we're expressing all of them right now. And we're, I don't know what the term is called, where you just complacency or denial, or it can't be real. But then also because you have to control your own FOMO. You cannot let FOMO happen.
How are you supposed to do that, bro?
I know. Yeah.
Are you sitting here in our first collaboration ever telling me that it's time, my friend?
Dude, so so let me refrain from making
no. And before,
let me say this. Let me refrain from predicting it.
Yeah.
All this stuff I'm showing you, how does it make you feel, like seeing all of that?
So, me personally, I've been in XRP for 5 years now. I've been told 589 is coming in the year 2018. I've been told that XRP is going to the moon so many times that I've believed it. I've heard all the buyback theories, the 10K XRP, the 35K XRP, that we're supposed to hit the $10 to $13 range, even 22. I've heard everything, all of it, every single part of it, to the point where I'm numb. And that feeling of numbness and denial, I kind of feel like it may be, I'm always a contrarian, it may be that's the feeling right before everything pops, because you know as well as I do that when XRP moves, it's 1 day, 1 week, 2 weeks, done. That's it. All of that.
Yeah. And we could talk on that too. Like that's the reality of it. Even the price that we had, like everybody kind of freaking out because price pulled back. What have we done? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days here. All the price action happened in 1 day. Mm-hmm. That is not unusual, man. And you know it too. When it goes up, we'll do this.
It happens and it shocks people.
There it is. That's it. That's all it is. Like the 5th through the 13th, 8 days. And then that's it. And that's not unusual. Everything, this whole bull run that happens right in here, this is 23 days. 23 days and it's all over, right? This is like 5 days. And so it's hard because we're emotional human beings. It's our protective mechanisms. It helps us in relationships. It helps us in dangerous situations that we're programmed with this DNA of a fight or flight. We get greedy, we get scared, we experience FOMO. Those emotions just don't work here. And just like kind of going into it, and the hard part about these is with how fast it happens and how fast it reverses. It's like it could be very difficult to try to sell the literal top of this thing if you're planning on taking some profits after being in this thing for forever. It could be very difficult to nail it down with how fast it does move.
Yep.
But to just remember looking into it, like I remember this in 2021 when I was selling my Bitcoin. I was selling my Bitcoin at like $45,000 to $58,000. I was selling it like the day after Tesla announced that they bought Bitcoin. I was like, this is it. This is my sell signal. I'm out. And the comment I kept getting all the time from people was, how can you be selling? This thing just started. Like it just began. And like from a time perspective, we had not just begun. Like we were already way into it. Like we had already gotten really high. Like how can you do this? We just started. And I think what a lot of people will do is use their time reference within their own brain to say, we've only been in this for 2 weeks. Are you telling me, Bearable Bull, you sat in this thing for 5 years and in a matter of 2 weeks, boom, you're selling? You're telling me you're going to hold on to this thing for 5 years, knowing that it's going to be utilized for all these different purposes. And then within 2 weeks after it gets regulatory clarity and it gets adopted by some big bank, or we're all just like NFTing it up like crazy, within 2 weeks of all the good news happening, you're going to sell it? That's a hard thing to wrap your head around, right? I went through the whole tough time. I finally get to the good time where we all should just be like hanging out together, celebrating, but it's time to sell. I had to hold through the really bad time and then sell the good time. That's a difficult concept to wrap your head around. And not only that, when the time does come for anybody to do it, everybody's gonna be telling you it's the wrong thing to do. It's just how it always goes, right? When you're at the peak, everybody's telling you it's gonna go higher. When you're at the bottom, everybody's gonna always tell you it's going lower. It's how it always is. So you have to then fight yourself and say, am I the only dingus here who's gonna do this? Like, if I'm wrong, I'm going to feel so dumb because everybody else knew what to do but me.
Yeah.
So yeah, mental preparation, which sounds like you have, Bull. But it's good for everybody to hear that too, how important it is, because these things can go stupid fast. And if this is the reality of our lives happening right now, which I cross my fingers that it is, I don't know if it is, but I cross my fingers that it is, because
when you bring that analysis in front of me right now, it does bring chills, but also I'm gonna act like the contrarian here and poo on the parades to bring everyone down.
Sure.
What if this is just an additional little pump before boom, lights out, and then in 2024 we see new all-time highs? Is that possible? Could you see that happening? Because personally, I've been having plenty of conversations with numerous chart analysts that got the 2022 crashes. Both FTX, both Terra Luna have been pinpointing and trading the market and all the swings accurately for a long time. That say, maybe $1.10 we got to right now, and then we retrace, and then we go into new all-time highs in 2024. Like, what would you say as far as that perspective is concerned? Because I see what you're putting in front of me, and I'm like, shit, no way in hell this is happening right now.
Right. Let me ask you, why 2024?
It just seems to me like, and it's not even to me, I've seen some of the analysis by some analysts that are showing, hey, we're supposed to see a pullback at some point this year, and then not like new lows, but like just a pullback, and then 2024 we go off into new all-time highs, specifically for XRP. Now, but for Bitcoin, we see a retrace to like the 618, and at that point, it starts going back down, and eventually it'll hit new highs down the road. So
yeah, I see that stuff all the time. I mean, they're just doing this, right? They're saying, hey, it's this, and then we go off and we set a new all-time high, crash, retrace, reaccumulation. I don't buy that. So I don't believe we're doing that. This is a wave 4 contracting triangle that happens in here. These are normal to occur here, and this is the second time for Bitcoin to do it within its broader super cycle. I mean, if anything, maybe there's a better chance that you're actually having one of these happen, because this would be the start of, like we showed, like a new super cycle getting to go, because this was the completed ending right? As we showed earlier of this past super cycle. So no, I'm not in the camp of thinking, and also with 2024, whenever people are making time predictions, and especially when I hear 2024, early 2025, all that tells me they're doing is they're going on the 4-year cycles. They're going 4 years, as we've done with these last 3 peaks that have happened in the market, these bottoms that have happened in the market, right? January 2015, December 2018, right? November 2022, right? These are all 4 years apart. And so we're just kind of going 4 years, 4 years, 4 years. And then we're also saying block reward halving, block reward halving. This is the thing that I focus on, right? Stock market. Is stock market going, and what's my perception of stock market, right? So when we break out from the market last time, when does it all happen? Like when do things get crazy? They get crazy in November and December. December is when we really get through the high, and then Bitcoin breaks into the all-time high, altcoin market goes, everybody's crazy, right? When did we get crazy in here? When did we get crazy in 2017? We get it right here when the stock market breaks out. Here we go, November 2016, off and away we go. Hip, hip, hooray. Let's see if this will overlay. Boom, there's Bitcoin. Right, running with the stock market. And then we go back here, we go back to the great financial crisis, and we say, here, here's the great financial crisis, here's the creation of Bitcoin, here's this. Boom, we break out. Within 12 days, there's Bitcoin breaking out, going from, what do we go from here? This is $3. What is this? $13. And we get to 231. This all happens on the breakout of the high, right? So for me, it's like, I don't think that, no way in my wildest dreams am I in any way looking at it like this. This is a very specific structure. This is a wave 4 contracting triangle. So if we're looking at that, no. I actually draw more of the conclusion that we would have something exciting happen here, and then Bitcoin turns over and goes to Goblin Town afterwards. That's more of my bigger worry, because when I look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, I say to myself, hey, are we going on to hit that 4.236 extension? And then that's really going to be the end of it, because we do have what we would deem here to be a 5-wave Elliott wave happening in here. And that, do we go on for an extended wave to hit that 4.236? Possibly. But as for dates, as we're saying 2024, you'd have to really eliminate a lot. I mean, we would have to pretty much throw away the structure that we're having. We'd have to throw away the underlying strength that we're having, the underlying flipping over that we're having happening in here. And if we just go and lose all this stuff, who's to say why 2024? Why not 2025? Why not 2026? If you're going to have a shot at it, this is really kind of the time, I would think, to really go for it rather than 2024.
This is the time.
It's weird. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable.
I don't believe it. PCB, I don't believe it.
I know. It's scary.
I do want to tackle this, because if this is in fact the case, it's very important that people protect themselves, because I had an interview recently with Waters Above, and I think he's an amazing trader. He's pretty fundamentally sound. A lot of people don't necessarily like some of the things he says, but I think he's been pretty fair. He's gotten 2022 right. He's gotten the recent pumps right to like 50, I think it was 8 cents, then boom, the 80 cent to $1 range. And then and then he's over here saying we could maybe get to $1.10 and some things. But at the same time, there was a quote stated in our previous video that said XRP is an excellent trader's coin, right? Because if you're a trader and you trade the swings, and you zero in on a lot of the XRP price movements, you can see that it's pretty simple to trade it. And he's been very profitable doing so. But if this is the moment that you're talking about right now, then it's very dangerous to try and trade XRP, because of the potential profits you may miss out on the table, right? Because if XRP is doing what you're saying it could be doing, then it's snap of a finger and it's gone. And you won't be able to get an entry back, right? If you are a trader. So it's difficult for me to sit here as long as we've waited and say, this time is different. But it's also me sitting here understanding how XRP moves and saying, what happens if this time is different? Like, what would you say to that?
Well, yeah, that's the hard part, right? And so I'm not saying we're doing anything, and this is the most volatile thing in the world. What I'm showing on the channel is what we have done before. And what I'm showing is all the underlying indicators. I'm showing the things that are happening in macro, where you have the elements arriving here in macro, which typically trickle down. We know that we were within 8 days of an accumulation range of a typical Wyckoff accumulation schematic. We break out of the schematic 8 days before the completion of it on incredibly good news and the only regulatory clarity coin in the space. And then not only that, but heading into that moment, it's like, so the one thing that of course would be super careful about, be like, well, hey, is the pump just related to, good news coming in here, right? However, like we tried to show here just a second ago, go ahead and take the pump out. We were already curling up and the bearishness was already fading. We were already starting to turn our way back up before we ended up getting the news. It was almost as if the news was timed. So, it's for especially in this, right? So what have we already done? We've already pumped 100%. Anybody wanting to buy into this market at this point, you've already missed the first 100%, right? What are you going to do if it crashes 30%, 40%? Do you have the stomach to handle that kind of stuff? Because this is the most volatile market in the world. For those who sat around and stomach through the really tough times, accumulating the bottoms when everybody was telling you it was a piece of garbage and it was never going to happen, you're sitting pretty fat. That's typically when I'm a buyer in the market, when everybody's telling me you're wrong. Everybody's telling me it's going to go lower. Whenever the general herd is in that position, that's typically where I'm like, all right, this is a good time to be adding to my spot portfolio. As its price has gotten up, you're going to play with a stupid amount of volatility as it's gotten higher now. So giving advice to people on how to trade it or how to behave with it, I'm going to leave that to how you would handle your audience on that. It's very high. Already. It's already up 100%. So any drawdowns, most people can't handle that. But if this is the moment and you look at how price behavior has acted before, there can be periods where in a matter of 3 days, the price has gone up so far you are left behind. Anybody who was day trading this thing and had to wait for certain indicators to trigger on them while they were down there, and if they were sleeping or something when this happened, they're already left behind. Day traders got left behind already. Maybe they sat there and they traded like 4 cents happening up in here, but from the bottom to the top, they did get left behind already. So, I don't want to advise your audience on how to handle it, right? So I bought into the market at much lower. I'm holding on for dear life. I see the macro elements lining up for a run, and I'm very aware runs can be short-lived, right? This could be over in 3 weeks, all over, done. And so, yeah.
So just based on this, and this isn't a prediction, but just based on this fractal that we have on the screen here, if let's say it does play out, what could be the next level that we're looking at?
Well, if you just go on the fractal, right, which is not my hypothesis, but if you just go based on the fractal, you go take out that most recent high from the peak of the market back in April of 2021, hit all-time high and then probably consolidate down on top of that level, building a base to then go on and hit $30. That's what the fractal is. That's not my base case. But, if that's what people want to see, that's what they see in here. For me, I look at, how has Bitcoin performed? And so this is not financial advice and everybody do whatever you want. But when I look at it from my perspective and I say, how high do I think it can go? I'm just looking at the rest of the market. How high did Bitcoin go? How high did Ethereum go? They both went on to 4.236 extensions from their 2018 highs. Now, the thing is, both of them actually came short of their 4.236 extensions, and it might be a good opportunity to pivot right here and go talk about inflation and supply dynamics, right?
Yes.
So Bitcoin and Ethereum, they both had new coins that get mined, right? Now Ethereum has switched over to a proof of stake model, but prior to the top, it was a proof of work. And so, you know, homies having graphics cards in their basements or in their dorm rooms running off of dorm room energy, mining Ethereum.
Yeah.
And, you know, all these big warehouses that mine Bitcoin, right? The supply grows every day, right? I believe the current supply of Bitcoin grows by 900 Bitcoins per day right now. Ethereum has moved to more of kind of a small inflation, slightly deflationary model. But with Bitcoin, you know, 900 Bitcoins get added to it every day. And what we actually notice is that neither one of them hit their 4.236 extensions on their actual price, but they both actually ended up hitting it on their market caps. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and pull up some market cap charts for Bitcoin and for Ethereum.
Now, while you do that, I have to let the audience know this right now. This, what BCB has pinpointed, is, in my opinion, one of the most important indicators and tools and just pieces of analysis that, if we can plug into our game plans this time around, can put us ahead of, in my opinion, 99% of investors, because most people aren't calculating the inflation of the token supply, right, when it comes to these charts, right? And he's about to show you how important the difference of calculating inflation when it comes to the token supply in the charts does make. And in fact, that the market cap indicator is extremely important, more important than necessarily the price, in order to pinpoint the full fib extensions, correct?
Correct.
Excellent.
Correct. So like if we look at Ethereum and you look at how high the price went back in 2021, we can look at it really close right here and see that it did not even hit this 3.618 Fibonacci extension here for Ethereum. It actually came up short. So quite bizarre, especially when we look over here at Ethereum's market cap. And Ethereum's market cap not only hit the 3.618, but it went on to hit the 4.236.
Boom.
So the market cap went on to hit full extension. Meanwhile, the price chart did not. Price came up short. So why would that happen? Why would the price chart come up short? And it's due to the market cap going to extension no matter what, but that there's more supply that gets added to the circulating supply every year. So for Ethereum, hard for me to remember the number off the top of my head. I'm gonna pull one out of my backside. Let's say it was 6% annually. Actually, I can figure that out. Let's do it right here. I'm over here on a website called charts.cointrader.pro. We will pull up. This website is free. Here we go. I did a calculation of it already. Here we go. This was in 2020. It was 4.5% was the annual inflation rate for Ethereum. So, you know, when you take a look at, like, run the numbers on that, how many years it took to get to this peak, right? We went from January of 2018 until November of 2021. So that is 3 years and 10 months, 3 years of 10 months of increasing supply by 4.5%. And in the end, what happens is what we end up increasing the total supply by, like, paper napkin math, 15%, you know, over the course of 3 years, but it was almost 4 years. So let's just say 20% of the supply increase. So when we have more supply that's been added, we're diluting what the price is going to be, even if the market cap reaches all the way up. So we end up coming short on the actual price because there's more tokens that are in circulation. In order for all those tokens times this price, that's how we still hit this. So the thing that actually ended up mattering more was market cap. And the reason why the price charts didn't hit them is because there was a continuous add to the inflation, a continuous add to the supply for 4 years. And then the thing is the exact same true over here for Bitcoin, right? We have 4 years of supply being added as miners mine Bitcoin every single day. What do these miners do? They sell it on the market, but so it gets added to circulating supply. And so even though Bitcoin ends up hitting a 4.236 extension for its market cap, it becomes short because the inflation rate's like at
3.5% for 4 years. And so we end up coming short of a full extension because there's more supply in circulation. And so the reason why we talk about this and why this is important is to circle back to XRP, in that, you're looking at, how can you attempt to forecast some price targets happening in there, where we're talking here, okay, well, we know that Ethereum went to a 4.236 extension. We know that Bitcoin went to a 4.236 extension, right? And if we're looking at XRP going to a 4.236 extension, do we need to go ahead and factor in those variables of going from January of 2018 all the way until July of 2023? 5.5 years of like 6, 7, 8% inflation over the course of all of those years. We now sit at over $52 billion or 52 billion XRP circulating supply. If we still go to a 4.236 extension on the market cap of XRP, where does the price of XRP end up landing, right? So I've run those numbers already. At every month that goes by, as you know, the escrow unlocks. Some of it makes its way into circulating supply. Some of it goes back into the escrow. And where we're at currently right now, it still sits. If you were to do the same thing that happened for Bitcoin and happened to Ethereum, where XRP goes off and hits a 4.236 extension on its market cap, if that were to happen here in July, right, you'd come up a little bit shy of $10, somewhere in the nines, if you did the exact same thing with the current circulating supply. Will that be the scenario, right? Will it end up being like what happened back in here, where it's like moon math madness, right? Where like put on some crazy fibs, just get all weird with the fibs and everything, and be like, hey, look, we got all the way out, we do it like that. And is that what we're gonna do here? Because if we go like line up some wacky fibs, and we're gonna get way out there, right? Maybe. I'm not banking.
I think people want to see it, but I don't think I don't think we should plan for what people want to see.
Right? Yeah. Bearable Bolt guarantees this is what's happening.
Blockchain backer said that in 1 week we're heading to $30. No.
Yeah.
Stop.
But anyway. Yeah, no, that's the thing to think about. Which model are you going to use? Are you going to say we're going to go as high, like you had mentioned? Like, is it a super cycle for XRP? Right? We saw the super cycles for Bitcoin. We saw that they repeated. They all went up similar percentages over the course of those 3 super cycles that happened. They just took longer and longer and longer for each one to occur. Is this another super cycle for XRP? But it's just taken 5.5 years to get to this point, rather than only taking like 3 years, right? Maybe. That's up for someone to decide on their own. So you could go with super cycle theory. Are you going to be right? Don't know. We could go with 4.236 extension like Bitcoin and Ethereum did. Is that going to be right? Don't know, but makes sense, right? So I think it's kind of picking and choosing. Which one do you find most logical? And I'll say, I'm not the type of person who says all in, all out at any point, right? Dude, I've been here with you the whole time, bro. I've been through C19, right? I've been through the lawsuit, right? Been through 2022, went through the thing that we talked about, 96%, been through all of it, man. Blockchain backer's gonna get paid. I'm selling some, bro.
We have to, and that's something I really want to tell people at home. As much as I love XRP, as much as you guys all at home love XRP, it is illogical and irrational to not take profits with XRP, because we've been waiting for 5 years. XRP bull runs only last 2-3 weeks historically, right? Maximum, actually. Who knows? It could end sooner. And we're here to stress for all of you in a timely manner, by the way, because this could happen like as we're streaming. Who knows? This could happen as we're streaming right now. We're just here to tell you that you need to make money. It's 2023. Inflation despite the fact that it's come down, it's affected the economy in a negative way. We have a war. We just had a health crisis. They're probably going to keep inflating again after the Fed pivots. We haven't seen a stock market crash yet, and it will happen eventually, right? It will happen eventually. And all we're here to tell you is that it's time to have capital to pivot into not just the real world, but to just have on the side to be able to maybe reinvest after we do have that eventual crash. Millionaires are made profit taking and then investing at the rock bottom levels, right? Right now, we have an opportunity to do both. We could profit take, and then whenever whatever happens as far as a crash is concerned, we can invest in lower levels. And the last thing I want to see is the XRP community witness one of the greatest bull runs that we've ever seen in our lives, not take any money in at all, and then wait another 2, 3, 4, 5 years for whatever XRP has in store for us again. That would suck, right? So I'm saying it's one of those things where you have to de-risk a little bit. We're not telling you to sell it all. We're not even telling you what to do. No. We're just both here saying that if we get to $4, if we get to $9, if we get to 15, 20, 30, whatever the hell XRP does get to, we're both definitely taking some chips off the table because that's very intelligent. But I think I could speak for you as well that we'll both be having a long-term portfolio of XRP in play as well for whatever possible scenario can happen down the road too.
Dude, for sure. I run the math too, because I already know like what my percentages are that I'll let go of and stuff. And even what I hold on to, it's still like 7 times the size of USD value of what it is today. But, you know, that still doesn't mean I'm not selling the majority and taking profit on the majority. 5.5 years, right? And I get it. Some people come in, and that's a hard part too. You know, there's all the allurement of the Federal Reserve is going to buy back my crypto, or, you know, $10,000, or, you know, all the crazy stuff that, you know, is going to make it difficult for people, especially if there's a narrative. So always, there's going to be a narrative. There's going to be something.
What I say, because I've been doing my best to dispel some of those narratives, because I entertain everything, right? I don't think dismissing anything is good, because then that leaves you open to being wrong. But I think tempering people's expectations and giving the perspective that, hey, even if you do profit take at 4, 9, 13, 15, whatever values we see, if you leave 10% in there, right, for the long term, and don't sell that at the bare minimum, if we hit $10,000, does it really make a fucking difference if you had more of your bag that you didn't sell? Because in that time in between, you could have secured your legacy already, your future already. You wouldn't have to be stressed out just waiting, and you could have been building things in the meantime. And I think people underestimate that time in between potential prices to really build and be able to do things in their real lives. They just wait for a number on the screen when they, and it's greed at the end of the day, and greed will wreck you more than fear would, honestly.
Yeah. They both do their toll. You know, it's hard to remain level-headed. And I think that, you know, that's one of the more reasons why people watch my show too. I went to the XRP Las Vegas thing. I was just floored how many people just said, you know, keeping your head level, because the biggest battle that we are all dealing with, like I even said earlier in here, we're engraved with it in our DNA. You know, it's our fight or flight mechanism. It's the thing that's protected us as well. But it's those emotions, they get in. We get greedy, we get scared, and those things have no place here. And you pretty much have to do the opposite of them. And pretty much, I would say, feel like a dingus all the time, because you're going to, whenever you're doing something, it usually doesn't feel good. But the right thing always feels bad.
Yeah. I guess something I'll ask to kind of maybe help people gain some perspective is, I have an XRP profit taking strategy that I have in place at the moment. I don't know if you'd necessarily want to share yours now. Is that something you'd be willing to do, or at least part of it?
As it sits right now, it would probably be like, okay, let's pretend that this is the real thing, right? I don't know if it is. It sure looks like it is. I hope it is. If it is, for me, it's probably unnibble above 5, but unload 65% in the $8 to $10 range. The remainder, I will hold on to 35% and then ride that off until the next one. If we get into the 20s, I'll probably sell half of that up there and then keep the remainder for whenever. But yeah, 65% of mine is gone prior to a 4.236 extension on the market cap.
Excellent.
How about you?
I think I had an original theory that 4, 9, 13, 17, and even 22 would be a good way to kind of look at what I don't expect to hit like some of those higher levels this time around, but I just have them in place and I'll always have a long-term bag. I'll always hold at least 20% of my XRP into infinity and beyond. Let's just make that clear for everyone in the entire market. But after sitting here with you right now and listening to the potential of this being the moment and listening to the probability of not probability, and listening to your calculation of the XRP inflation as well, I might have to lower that second target level to $8 just to get some more off the table, and I might have to sell more at 4 and 8.
Well, then I'm going to 750, Bull.
Don't short me. Wow. You're shorting me, bro. No. Oh man. But yeah, that's kind of, I think that's reasonable to look at the moment. I'm not gonna offload too big of a portion of my bag if it does happen, but I honestly didn't expect this to be, I didn't expect the high probability of this being the moment, which is why I'm really glad that we got to do this today.
Yeah.
I don't think I know your style, and I know that you're not a shill. I know that you're not over here trying to instill the FOMO of God into people. But I think what you're doing is pinpointing, hey, this may very well be the moment in time that XRP moves, and to just be prepared, because if it does happen, it happens quick. I think we both stressed the importance of having exchanges ready. Now that XRP is relisted, we have exchanges ready, and being KYC'd on as many of those as possible is very important. Something that typically happens as well, I'm sure you've noticed, is that exchanges love to have some technical problems during the midst of explosive price action.
I've never seen that.
Really?
No, I'm just messing with you, bro.
Really? I'm like, is that so?
It happens every time.
Every single time. I don't know if that's market manipulation. It probably is. But not to get tinfoil hatty, it's important to be prepared with as many on and off ramps as possible. It's important to de-risk, especially when you see the amount of time we've suffered through and the amount of potential profits on the table. This is a 20x opportunity where we didn't have it before. This is a 30x opportunity for some people as well. So it's just important to stay grounded, get some chips off the table, de-risk. And I have the intention of rebuying XRP at lower potential values as well, because we will correct, right? I think there's this false narrative that XRP will never go back down to any price level ever again, right? And I'm sure you don't necessarily agree with that. So I will be buying back at lower prices to multiply my XRP bags after some profits have been taken. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the time, right? So like, and let's pretend, let's say this too. I come on here not to be somebody predicting anything. I come on here to say, here's what XRP is doing. This is very interesting. The last time we did this, we corrected 85.5%. We did that as well. Then we went on to Wyckoff accumulate. We did that as well. Then all these underlying indicators, they were all the same. And like, we're doing all of those. And now we just got really good news. And then now the Dow Jones is breaking out. And now Bitcoin's showing all of these underlying indicators of strength on the monthly time frame that have historically been really good to happen. So every viewer has the ability to make their own judgment on whether or not any of these things actually end up mattering. I can look at them and I can say, each time these things have happened, here's what happened. Do I know that's what's going to happen? Of course not. I'm a guy looking at charts. I'm looking at them. I'm saying, this is what has happened. Every viewer can make their own decision on whether or not it is going to happen. I just want to like put that out there too, is that make your own decision. Look at this. Is this important? Do these things matter? And, you know, I jump to my own conclusions because these are the things that I'm looking at. And I think I'm kind of like you, Bull, here, where I'm a little nervous of it. Yeah. Because we've been through this for a long time, 5.5 freaking years to get here. It's a little nerve wracking to say, is it actually happening? I don't know if it will happen, but what I see is every single thing has happened that time. Oh. Whether we're looking at bigger time frames, smaller time frames, big indicators, small indicators, where we were looking at stochastic RSI in the 4 hour at the beginning of us recording this, look at it go. You know, we see it on all the time frames that it's the same. Will it do it? Hey man, let's all cross our fingers that it does. But my point was not to predict it's going to happen, because what if it doesn't? There's going to be a lot of people pissed off, right? It's up to you to decide, do any of these things matter? If you think they don't matter, write it off and call me a dummy. It's fine. But look at it yourself, decide, is there anything relevant in here? To me, it gets me very excited, and my fingers are crossed that we're getting it. But man, I think I'm like you, brother. Way too much time has been spent here.
I'm in disbelief.
Is it really happening? Right. Yeah,
I'm in disbelief, to be honest with you, but I'm prepared for any and all scenarios. I feel like we've been training like Rambo for our entire just for this moment. Oh my God.
And it's funny because the moment of it'll be over before you know it. If it's right, and we don't know if it's happening right now. If it happens right now, it'll be over before you know it. Mm-hmm. And I think we kind of got a taste of it being over before you know it with the lawsuit.
Yeah.
All that time, all that waiting, never ending, never coming to a conclusion.
Boom. Quick announcement. You know what's funny? I actually slept through that announcement. It was hilarious, right? I had a late night and then I woke up at 4 p.m. Eastern time. And
dang.
I just to like 12 missed phone calls on my phone from people that never talked to me ever. I'm like, dude, what do you want? Like, did you see what happened, bro? No, what's going on? The case is over. Shut up. No, it's not. Be quiet. But it was everyone. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's over. Wow.
I caught the breaking news from an account I never thought I would. There's an account called DB, and they broke the news. Of course, I thought it was me filing, right? Or Jeremy or somebody. One of you guys would break it. Not me. I'm just dude looking at charts. I thought you guys would break it. And I'm like, what is this account? Why are they sharing this? Incredible. And it snowballed. Everybody was sharing it. And then
incredible.
Yeah, amazing. What a great day.
It was. And if to not get too much into just the same thing, if it were to be that the perfect XRP storm were to happen, it would be at a time frame around now where the case has just resolved. Even we even have Fed now in a couple of days going live. I don't know. I know you don't like narratives, but I think they're catalysts that could snowball this effect. So who knows? If you need a catalyst to look at, that's potentially one as well. But to get into the final question of the day, because we've been going for almost 2 hours now, and brother, it's been amazing.
Yeah, thanks, man.
We have the SEC coming after a lot of exchanges right now, Coinbase, Binance, and as collateral damage, some of these tokens, so like Algorand, for example, Near, Polygon, Solana, they are suffering from accusations that they're securities, and that had affected the price negatively for them initially when that was announced. My final question to you is, because this is a mistake I'll never make again. I will never underestimate the weight of how suppressed the price of people going through or projects going through SEC accusations or lawsuits will make it, right? Do you believe that we could have a similar effect on those prices for some of those tokens of price suppression, of maybe because they performed so well the last cycle, they'll underperform this next one? Because we saw XRP and Stellar as a result didn't reach all-time highs because of the XRP lawsuit, because XRP and Stellar tend to have similar price action and move at the same time. We even saw it when the news broke on the XRP case. Why the hell is Stellar moving? Stellar wasn't under a lawsuit, but they just moved together. They just moved together. So do you think that because cryptos like Cardano and Solana, they by far outperformed most of the rest of the market last time around with this SEC, these SEC accusations looming, do you think that could make it so that they have similar action at XRP? I know you don't speculate too much. I don't know if you've done some chart analysis that may point to that as well. I'm just curious to know your thoughts on that. And I know some people at home asked me to ask you that too.
Yeah. So the first thing that I do is I weigh out the scenario. Is the scenario any different? Right. And there are quite differences that have happened here. Like the SEC has not directly gone after any of these people. Right. So with XRP and with Ripple, they went directly after Ripple, and all the exchanges panicked and delisted XRP. Right. So are we seeing that same thing? No, it's really different. Right. If you look at Cardano, it's not performing great. If you look at Solana, I believe Solana's price is higher than, I'm quite certain Solana is up. Yeah. So that obviously didn't happen for XRP, right? Like, Solana currently is up. When they sued Coinbase, it was like at $19, $20. Now Solana's at 25. So Solana's up 25% since that happened.
Excellent.
You know, so it's a hard one. There's multiple factors, that things like we talked about earlier, talking about inflation, right? Some of these coins have experienced really bad inflation for a long time. Like Algorand had a period of really bad inflation. Like if you also look at the developer activity for Algorand, it's really like that's been released by Electric Capital. Algorand's been getting like it, at least according to their report, getting abandoned by developers, and it has been for a while. It's down like 65% over the course of the last year. So I think just a lot of things are going wrong for Algorand. And then on top of that, they had inflation for a long time. I don't know. Like it's I own some of the, like I own a small amount of Solana. I own a small amount of Atom or Cosmos. But it's not the bulk of my portfolio, just because I have post-traumatic stress disorder from SEC and Ripple, right? So I think it's a tough call that people will have to kind of weigh out themselves. But I think it's important to point out what are the differences this time. It's that the SEC doesn't have a central point to go after, and then the exchanges aren't panicking, cutting off liquidity, right? For XRP, they cut off the liquidity of the U.S. retail investor. Right? We were not able to put money into it from the U.S. unless if you knew what you were doing. But the dude who, for example, I have family members I don't talk to very often. No other reason than we just don't talk to each other. But probably like you, man, you were probably getting text messages from people when Elon was going on Saturday Night Live to buy Doge, right? Yeah. All that money was flowing into stuff they could easily get. They could easily get it on Robinhood. They could get it on Coinbase. They could get it on every exchange. You get Dogecoin and YOLO in. We didn't have that, right? We didn't have that for XRP holder, for normal everyday people who were like your Dogecoin buyers, to be able to YOLO into XRP because of that circumstance.
And the upper legs of the price action for these tokens are typically retail. Right.
Yes.
So
yes.
That's very important to note as well. So that's a great take, brother. I appreciate you just commenting on that. And I know I said that was supposed to be the last question, but there was one more thing that I wanted to touch on. and that's specifically gold and silver,
Sure.
and also just the dollar. I had
Mhm.
realized, and I undervalued the weight of how important looking at the DXY is as an indicator for for just markets as a whole, right? If I would have just taken a nice little look at the DXY in 2022 and seen that it was going parabolic, I would have been able to understand that crypto was going to take a shit in 2022. But um, I think that people have this false idea in their minds that the dollar is just useless. And at the end of the day, it's a tool, right? I'm sure you would agree. And it still is the world's reserve currency. While there is inflation, and eventually we will see the devaluation of the dollar. I think we suffer in the XRP community of being too early, right, when it comes to that specific scenario. And people are allergic to fiat, just to be honest with you. I used to be that way until I saw my portfolio last year go down significantly because I didn't profit in fiat. I mean, holding USD would have been the profitable trade of 2022, right? So my question to you is, how important is having fiat and those cash positions ready and profit taking? And are you looking at gold and silver as being a more significant part of your portfolio after some potential profit taking does take place in crypto?
I already hedge myself heavily with gold and with silver. So if you go through and you look at the history of the stock market, you look at the history of the cryptocurrency market, you look at the history of gold, and in particular gold, let's focus on gold, just in general. Silver, it's kind of its own thing. We touch on it, but gold is the main factor here. There is an inverse relationship between gold and between the equity market. Inverse, okay? And I'm not talking about like in ranges. I'm talking full-blown bull runs. So we're talking like gold goes into a bear market in 1980, lasts for like 21 years. During that time, the stock market rampages. Then 2001, what happens? Dot-com bubble pops, right? We go into our range. We hit the great financial crisis that lasts for 10 years. But in that time, gold rampages up to the new all-time highs that we know so well now. Then as the stock market leaves the great financial crisis, gold goes into a bear market for the last decade. But there's this big inverse relationship on bull runs. So not necessarily day to day, not necessarily month to month, but for large bull runs, there's an inverse relationship between gold and between equity markets. However, there's a correlated relationship between the cryptocurrency market and the equity market. Yeah. So we look for bullishness in the equity market to signal bullishness in the cryptocurrency market. But if we have underlying bearishness to be worried about, that has been the better time for gold. So I hedge with how high the stock market is. I own quite a bit of gold to hedge myself in the event of things coming and tumbling down. One of the biggest challenges we have right now when it comes to gold, and in the event, let's pretend we're going into the Great Depression. Let's pretend that the stock market's going to pop. Let's pretend cryptocurrency is going to go to zero.
Nope.
Would that, in the event of escaping crypto at the very top, escaping the stock market at the very top, and throwing all of your money into gold, be the smartest decision? We don't know the answer to that, because if we go into the Great Depression, we don't have a reference point to look back at. We could say, well, we actually have the Great Depression to go look back at it on. Well, no, not really, because in 1929, 1930, when the bubble popped, gold was fixed to the price of $20. It wasn't until like 1933, 1934, the Gold Act, and they took everybody's gold back. You're only allowed to keep 5 ounces of gold. After the government bought it all back at $20, then they repriced it to 34 and then let you buy it all back. So what we do know is that at the bottom of the Great Depression, gold for some reason was valuable, and that governments did want it back, right? And they repriced it to 34 at the lows of the stock market. So it likely gained value during the crash, but did it gain value right away? That's the thing we don't know the answer to.
And that's important, because and I think you found this on the charts as well. Like even going back to the '08 financial crisis, when you look at equities and then when you compare that to the gold chart, I believe both of them crashed at the same time, if I'm not mistaken. Now you could argue that that's manipulation. You could argue that that's magical.
Unicorn fairy dust.
Unicorn fairy. I love
There you
that
go,
phrase, bro. Unicorn fairy dust. But it's something that I'm sure you've seen as well, which is why.
Here, I'll share my screen again real quick. Am I already sharing it? Am I sharing
No,
it
not
right
yet.
now?
Not yet. So we didn't know that you were over here looking at some shit on the screen. But the reason I bring this up is because there are moments in time where I believe during massive crashes where I think the most profitable move is having cash, and then post those massive like stock market or crypto crashes, pivoting over to gold could be the best move as well. I'm just curious to know if you've zeroed in like
On the timing.
yeah, on that exact timing, because
Yeah, that is so hard.
I know it's hard. I know, but that's
Yeah.
what we grapple with, the difficult concept. This is what we're bringing to the community today, my friend. Why not? Yeah.
So let's touch on what you just talked about. So you talked about the great financial crisis. So here's the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It was actually in like this broadening wedge that went on for like 10 years. Here you go. Right. So there you go. And then in the blue, I actually have gold. So let's zoom back just one more phase here really quick. And that, here you go. The Dow Jones goes into this ridiculously long range, lasting from 1963 all the way till 1982. Dude, a 20-year long range. Look who just rampages during this range, right? Gold's going from just, what are you, gold? 30.
Those were war times in Cold War.
No. Well, you could call it pretty much any time war. But what we see also though is that when gold peaks, it's the end of this range. So this range, it gets escaped finally.
I see.
We escape and the Dow becomes bullish again. And notice that as the Dow is bullish, who is a bear? Gold. Boom, big fat bear on gold. Now
is that because I don't think it's, and this is the tricky part, I don't think it's just a two variable equation. Oh, gold is bearish and stocks are, but because what I see is a bull run in gold immediately after Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard as well.
What was that, 1972?
71, 72. So
71, 72. Yeah.
So that's why I think it's
well,
not.
here, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So here's our bottom, right? Where does our bottom happen? It happens right as we peak, right? So gold finally bottoms here. So that doesn't really explain, when that happens, right? Then we move over, right? And what happens is that we go into a range, right? The stock market goes into a broadening wedge, right? Here's your great financial crisis. And notice that during this peak, once this range has been entered, gold goes into a bull run again.
Yeah.
Right. Here's the great financial crisis. Here, you kind of commented on it and said that, gold fell during that time. It did, but not much, right? It goes from what? $1,000 down to $729. So I guess almost 30%. But you can see big, huge move over here in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. But still, the broader trend continues until finally we escape range, right? So this is where we showed Bitcoin breaking out from the great financial crisis. And then we also see here upon that, what do we get? We then get the breakdown actually to take place in gold. So bull run over gold goes down, right? So, and then, we have decided to pop back up in here during, we almost said the word C19, C19, breakout of C19, and then back into bear we go. Then we turn down, and now we're both working on a range. But any of the bigger, broader trends have been inverse of one another, depending on what's happening between the two.
Is it possible to overlay the DXY as well? Is it possible to do that?
Sure. I don't know how ugly it's going to look, but we're going to find out.
It's pretty ugly, probably, right? Just curious to see if we.
Yeah, so we have no real correlation of the DXY and the stock market back here in 2002 to 2008. What do we see happening here? Let's mark these spots here to here, almost flat, you know, up. You do see a slight trend upward in the stock market during this time period, but not a whole lot. Let's see if we can go back further.
Interesting.
I mean, we kind of see it here, right? But hard. And let me turn gold off for a second. Right, you're wanting to see it versus the stock market or versus all three?
All three, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
There's.
So here you go. Here's the dollar just crumbling, and we can see that gold is doing the same thing. Gold is just running flat during the whole crumble. I guess we could say from right here. Yeah, I mean, these kind of line up. Yeah, peak, bottom, top, bottom.
But that's what's difficult, dude. It's so hard because all of like the metals market is so hyper manipulated. It's like it's hard to even know.
So the easiest way I've come to accept it is like I've heard that all the time too, right? And not only that, man, I've been a coin collector, like a silver nerd, dork. You show me what a peace dollar. I'll spot any of them, dude. I mean, I'm all about these silver coins and stuff. But that also means I've been like really involved in it and heard all the narratives too. And the easiest thing that I have come to wrap my head around with all of it is simply accepting one is in a bull run when the other is not. that has really been the easiest way. The timing of it certainly seems very difficult to be able to pinpoint.
Yeah.
But like I said, hedged in gold and silver. At the same time, dude, cash and treasuries, super unsexy, 5.24% treasury bills. So hot. But it's like that's the dry powder for when it needs to go, right?
Yeah. That's perfect, brother. Thank you. I know that one was a tough one. And to a lot of people at home, you may be wondering why I asked that. It's because, I'm very well aware plenty of us are pretty heavy in crypto right now. Most of us that have been here for years. And there's going to be a point in the not too distant future, one way or another, where we're going to need to get diversified, whether we profit take from XRP, have some cash, have some gold, have equities, maybe we want to get real estate. I know for a damn fact we're all not just going to be in crypto the whole time and only have crypto. We're trying to build lives. And part of that building lives is understanding how all these markets work together and just being prepared for whatever comes. Because I don't know if you feel this way, but I certainly do. I think we're heading into the one of the last periods in time where we can actually build wealth organically, where upward mobility, as far as economic mobility, is going to be limited. CBDC scare the shit out of me. I think whatever's agendas that are playing out in the world scare the shit out of me. And all I'm doing is instilling urgency and preparation, because an ounce of preparation beats a pound of cure. And I feel with this little collab we just did today, I think people feel a lot better, a lot more prepared. And at the very least, they could say, we finally did it, bro. It's been fun. It really has. It's been a blast.
Let's get those treasuries.
Let's get those treasuries. Oh man, but
yeah, and I mean, I agree with you that the stock market thing. I think that's the thing that has me pretty excited today. We watched the daily close during this thing. We've been going on for 2 hours now, but we watched the highest daily close in a year and 3 months. We also watched the Dow close the day above the 702. We watched the S&P close above the 786 today. So those were milestones that happened while we were recording today.
Yep.
I think those are exciting, and I tend to agree with you. I think my biggest worry right now is not going into the bull run, and that's all exciting and all, but that I am worried that if we get into new all-time highs with the stock market, that it's only a little bit up there. It may be euphoric, it may be short-lived, it may be really exciting, but that I'm going to have to make some decisions really quick.
And I think you pointed it out too, that it's just a little a little more. It's not that much action. It'll be all the hype beast articles and the FOMO articles everywhere, new all-time highs. But that's typically when the lights out moment happens in short order. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough, man. But
Well, dude, can you do me a favor?
absolutely.
When you record, when you like do this, and here's my beautiful voice talking right now, can you make sure that I'm like, we're flying over a valley in between some mountains, and you've
Oh, is
got
that
like a
you?
lake, a river going through the middle.
I'll only
And
do
it's
that
all like,
if you let me keep this needs to
yes,
stay into
for sure, for sure. This is staying in. Right now, the viewer is just enjoying life. They're watching us go through a mountain with a beautiful stream and flowers all over the place. We can see the mountains off in the distance with the
and then
white caps on them.
I'll make sure that when you start talking about XRP, I'll have a raging bull being ridden by some cowboy.
The big stamp is like guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
Nothing's guaranteed. This is not financial advice.
Blockchain backer says 589 end
Yeah.
of week. Oh, man. No, without a doubt, brother. Without a doubt. Anything you need, man. Thank you so much. Thank you, brother. I think everyone at home thanks you too. This was a great one, and anytime you want to do it again, I'm all ears. Like I always say, anything you need from me, just don't hesitate to ask. And it was an absolute pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Mine too. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, sir. All right. To everyone at home, much love and God bless.
And the blockchain backers got your back. No. The bearable bulls got your back.
There you go. There you go. Peace.